All right, let's take a look at the week in tech. Carmi Levy joins us, CTV tech analyst. And Carmi, I think last week we started by talking about DeepSeek, which had taken the tech world by storm. Well, the storm continues, but I suggested to you today maybe DeepSeek is in deep trouble. What's going on?
They are. We've seen no fewer than 3 reports, Aaron, that suggest that DeepSeek's security problems are more than skin deep. Cisco tested it against other models, and they basically threw a bunch of prompts at it that were designed to see if it could go off the rails. Would it answer a question about maybe committing a crime or building a bomb? And all of the other models managed to say, nope, can't answer that one. Whereas DeepSeek, in every single case, it answered the problematic question. In other words, it had what's called a 100% attack success rate. It failed to block a single prompt. Encrypt AI, which is a research company, they found that it's upwards of 11 times more likely to go off the rails compared to the competition. So things like biased content, toxic content, extremist-leaning content, it's about 10 to 11 times more likely to display that compared to the other models. And then the third one, and this is the one that keeps me up at night, Aaron, is Wiz Research did some research, and they were just poking around the edges of DeepSeek's online presence, saying, are they a secure company? Do they keep their data secure? And they managed to find a database just sitting out in the open. It wasn't encrypted. It didn't require a username or a password. It had no authentication on it at all, but it contained a ton of sensitive information. So things like usernames, chat history, back-end data, operational details, all the things that it records while you're asking it questions, it was just sitting out there on the open internet on a database. Now, there's no evidence that this was used in an attack, but the fact that the company would leave it out there suggests that this is a company that you probably shouldn't trust, especially given where it comes from, China. So if my warning last week to not use DeepSeek, not download it, not put it on your phone, didn't hit home, this probably should. If you've already downloaded it, get rid of it. We're learning more by the day of just how unsecure this particular app is and how little we can trust the company that brings it to us.
Okay, so good news for NVIDIA, I guess. Okay, let me move from that and talk about really what the most important item today is beyond that, the fact that apparently Google's AI Super Bowl ad is wrong, Carmi, about cheese. I'm sorry, what?
Yeah. So they're advertising Gemini AI, which is Google's AI platform, and they had a bunch of commercials. They released them digitally. The plan is, I believe, to show them on the Super Bowl itself. And one of them, it showed that it generated text that says Gouda accounts for 50 to 60% of the world's cheese consumption, basically saying it's the most popular cheese in the world. Well, you do a little bit of research on the web and you realize that's not the case. It isn't the world's most popular cheese. Maybe in some communities it is. I love me a good hunk of smoked Gouda, but globally it's not the world's most popular cheese. So there's been a lot of backlash online, and Google's response to it is, well, check the web. This isn't a hallucination. Gemini is grounded in the web. Users can always go to the web to check results and references, which kind of makes me wonder, then why bother asking Gemini at all if it can't get it right? And I think this is an early example of what happens. You know, we're starting to use chatbots more to get the answers that we need, and we're starting to use search engines like Google less. So they don't always get it right. We may have to keep both Google search and AI chatbots in our toolkit, and we may have to check them against each other because sometimes, especially now, it looks like they're not getting it right. I would try Gouda on a nacho plate. I hear it's really good, but I'm certainly not going to use Gemini AI to get the recipe.
You know, it's funny you say this. So I use ChatGPT more and more every day, and it's a wonderful resource, right? But then I was doing something on Canadian companies because, of course, we're talking about what's really Canadian-owned, what's not. And one of the answers, because I asked it, which of these are Canadian companies that we think are American companies we think are Canadian, right? And it gave me back the Montreal Canadiens. And it said that the Molson family was an American family, and I'm like, wait a sec. So the next prompt was, no, Jeff Molson is Canadian or whatever. The Molson said, oh, sorry, my mistake. So it's certainly not perfect.
It isn't. And the longer you converse with a chatbot, the more likely it is to go off the rails. The deeper you read into a list of examples, the more likely that that you'll run into an incorrect reference. And I think the lesson here is that we should have a little bit of suspicion with everything that comes back from a chatbot. It gets most things right, but not all. And so make sure that when you're reading something off of a chatbot and it's giving you an answer, check where it comes from, check the source. open up a tab on your browser and do a little bit of digging on your own, which is what you probably should have been doing all along anyway. Never trust sources until you've eyeballed them yourself. But this is especially the case with chatbots because chatbots don't always make it obvious where they're getting their information from. And in many cases, it's wrong. They're searching the web, they're grabbing information that may not have been vetted, and they're taking it as truth when that isn't the case. So buyer beware. We've got to become better filters when we consume content generated by a chatbot.
So
Otherwise, we may be in for a nasty surprise.
Yeah, I would ask you as a tech, professional. So between all the chatbots that are out there and Google's and Microsoft's, what do you use, or do you use just one?
I use different. So I use a whole bunch for exactly that reason, because I don't trust one 100%. Okay. So I will open up ChatGPT. I will open up Google, Anthropic's Claude. I will open up Microsoft Copilot, and I'll kind of play them against each other. And then I'll also use regular old Google searches to go directly to a source if I want to double check that as well. So I use a number of different tools at the same time, and I would suggest that we all do that as well. Don't rely exclusively on one. Use different ones, and only be comfortable with an answer when you've seen where it comes from. Confirm the source, and then you're okay.
Okay. Let's move on from that to, speaking of apps, though, Apple's got a new iPhone app to manage your social life. What's this about?
Yeah, so it's called Apple Invites, and basically what it is you know how like when you book a meeting at work and you invite a bunch of people, and it shows up in their inbox, and all it is a link, and it looks very corporate and it isn't very fun. Well, there isn't an equivalent like that for you and me for, maybe having a party or a get-together, going out for dinner with a bunch of friends. And so that's really what this app is all about, is that it's designed for social connections. So that, if you're having a get-together at your house or a party or a surprise party, you send it out from your iPhone. You can include photos from your photo archive, or you can use Apple Intelligence to create a photo for you. You can have guests contribute their own photos to it, so that, after the party is done, you can share photos on it. You can share soundtracks on it too. Basically, it's almost like a social media experience for invitations. It makes it more fun, easier to use. It's going to be built into iOS. You can download it as an app now. You do need an iCloud Plus subscription for it. So if you're on the free iCloud plan, it isn't going to work. But the nice thing here is that no matter what kind of phone you have, whether it's an iPhone or an Android device or even on the web, you can receive and interact with and RSVP to any invitation. So you don't have to worry what kind of phone your friends have. You can send these out and know full well that they can interact with them, and it'll get onto their calendars as well.
Okay, real quick, I got about 45 seconds. So Instagram, I love this. So everyone has kind of begun to sour on dating apps, I think, at least the traditional ones. Now it turns out Instagram is become popular for dating?
Yeah, there's an app called Riz, which is basically designed to sort of coach you. It's almost like a dating coach. And they analyze different platforms, and they realize they're getting much less activity from traditional dating apps like Tinder or Bumble, and they're getting more activity from social media platforms like Instagram. In other words, most people are finding mates by commenting on other people's photos and stories and videos, and they're connecting on Instagram, and then maybe sliding into DMs or taking their conversations offline. But it turns out that Instagram is now responsible for about 20% of all dating online, more than any other platform combined.
Well. Carmi Levy, CTV tech analyst. Thank you, Carmi.
Great being with you, Aaron.
Take good care. You bet.